How does someone go about finding a midwife? How do midwives support people emotionally during labour and birth? And is too posh to push actually a thing? Kia ora everyone, I'm Amellia Kapa. I'm a lecturer and midwife here at AUT's Department of Midwifery, and I'm here today to answer your questions and ease your concerns about giving birth. This is Midwifery Matters. Okay, so first up, what exactly does a midwife do? And is it just about delivering babies? Well, the short answer is no. It's definitely not just about supporting people during labour and birth. Midwives work across the whole childbirth continuum. So that goes from early pregnancy, or whenever a woman finds out she's pregnant and registers for care, right through labour and birth and up until baby's about 6 weeks old. So how does the maternity care system work in New Zealand? And can anyone choose a midwife? Well, the first thing to know about our maternity system here in Aotearoa is that it's publicly funded. So as long as you're eligible for publicly funded healthcare, you won't receive any bills after seeing a midwife or if you turn up to the hospital for anything related to maternity care. Now, the second part, can anyone choose a midwife? Theoretically, yes, anyone can choose a midwife. However, depending on where you live in Aotearoa and how many midwives are in your area, it may be more challenging for some to find one midwife who can look after them all the way through. But don't panic, that doesn't mean you won't have maternity care. It just means your care will look a little bit different. So usually that's a hospital-based team. So you'll attend the hospital for your appointments and you'll go to the hospital to give birth to your baby. How does someone go about finding a midwife and what should they consider? So the first place I would start is Find Your Midwife. This is a national website. It's fantastic. You can go on there, enter in your due date and the area that you live in, and it'll come up with a list of all of the midwives who are available when you're due in your area. So that takes half the work out of it. The other great thing about this website is that the midwives on there usually have a photo and a bit of a blurb about themselves. So that gives you the chance to go on there, read a little bit about their background, perhaps they've got a family themselves, and you can also read a bit about their midwifery philosophy. Now, as first-time parents, you're probably thinking, well, I don't know what I don't know, so what should I be looking for? The best way to go about this is take a look at the website, narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3 midwives that you like the look of, and then reach out. Ask them if they'll do an initial meeting with you. This doesn't mean you're locking anything in, okay? You're not then committed to be with that midwife and under that midwife's care, but it gives you the chance to meet a few and get a feel for the vibe, for want of a better way of phrasing it. It's a close relationship, and from early pregnancy all the way through until your baby's 6 weeks old, it's nearly a whole year of your life that you'll spend with this health professional. And it's a huge transition into parenthood, so you've got to make sure it's the right fit. What's the role of a lead maternity carer, or LMC, and how does that work? Well, this is a great question. As midwives, we often throw around LMC and forget that people don't actually know what we're talking about. So LMC stands for Lead Maternity Carer, and this is the health professional who's overall responsible for your maternity care. So we coordinate everything that's happening around your maternity care. As long as you remain well and your baby remains well, that could look like only needing input from your midwife. However, if you need any specialist input at any point, after the midwife's had a discussion with you about it, they'll then organise for any referrals that you need to other health professionals so that you can get expert input when you need it. Are there any unique challenges or benefits to being a midwife in Aotearoa? Yes, there are many. We have quite a unique system here in Aotearoa. So we are midwifery-led, and midwives in this country are autonomous practitioners. So that means our practice isn't being overseen by a doctor. We work on our own responsibility and are able to make decisions about your care in partnership with you and your whānau, obviously. Now, one of the most beautiful parts of our maternity system here in Aotearoa is that LMCs provide what's called continuity of care. This allows us to build up a beautiful beautiful relationship and connection with whānau over time, from early pregnancy right through until Bubba's are 6 weeks old. And in fact, sometimes it can be a little bit sad to say goodbye to some of these whānau when it's the final visit. And in some cases, we may look after the same mama again for a second baby right through, and she may have a sister or a cousin or a friend. So sometimes we even end up looking after whole extended whānau, and it's another privilege that I absolutely love. Here's another great question. What's it like for student midwives, and what challenges do they face? This is an academic program, and just like any other academic degree, there are many deadlines, requirements of students, but with midwifery, there is also a significant clinical placement requirement as well. So in addition to assignments, coming to classes, watching lectures, students also need to complete about 2,500 hours of clinical placement over 4 years. That's broken up, obviously, semester by semester, but I would say if you were to talk to a midwifery student right now, they'd probably say their biggest challenge is trying to balance the deadlines, making sure they're getting their assignments in on time, able to study for their exams, and turn up for their shifts, or sometimes even be on call shadowing an LMC midwife. And then there's life in addition to all of that. So it is a big commitment, but it's worth it in the end. I love this question. How do midwives support Māori whānau and respect tikanga during pregnancy and birth? Many whānau Māori are reclaiming traditional birthing these days, and similarly, many Māori midwives in particular are also reclaiming these tikanga. Now, the important thing to know is it's not for midwives to become experts in these areas, whether it's tikanga Māori or traditions or rituals that come from other cultures. Our role is to support whānau to have the most enriching and empowering birth experience for them. This one made me laugh, actually. What's the most common question I get from first-time parents? I wouldn't say it's one question, but what I have seen over the years is that understandably, most first-time parents are quite focused on the birth, and it's very hard to see anything beyond that point. But in my experience, looking after many first-time parents in those first few days after having a baby, the most challenging part is learning how to be a new parent. Your baby's arrived, you're looking down at this beautiful new life, but you're wondering, does this come with an instruction manual? Parents often ask questions about how often babies need to be fed, when should I change their nappy, how often should I change their clothes, is this too many layers, not enough layers? There are many, many questions, and it's a pretty tough time adjusting to this new little being who wants to sleep all day and then be awake all night. This is another great question. What happens if something doesn't go to plan during labour? Do midwives handle emergencies as well? The answer is absolutely yes. As student midwives, emergencies are simulated in the classroom so that they can learn how to deal with emergencies depending on where they unfold. Obviously, dealing with an emergency in a big tertiary hospital with doctors all around is very different from dealing with an unplanned emergency or outcome at, say, a home birth. So all of those scenarios are simulated, different emergencies in different years of the degree, so that students can become comfortable and know exactly what their management process is. How do midwives support people emotionally during pregnancy and birth? This is another fantastic question. Obviously, it's essential as midwives that we do all of our clinical checks, taking mum's blood pressure, making sure that baby's growing as we would expect them to, and listening into their heartbeat at every visit. But equally important is checking in on mama's emotional and mental well-being. We also check in on mama's support network. Now, sometimes this can take a little bit of time getting to know this mama or this whānau before we can start probing a little bit deeper to find out what else may be going on in someone's life. We just don't know in the first meeting how well somebody might be feeling supported. Perhaps their partner works away, perhaps their extended whānau doesn't actually live in their area, or in some cases they may have fairly recently migrated to New Zealand and they might be navigating a completely new maternity system. So we check in on all of these things just as often as we check in on all of the other physical things that we're looking for. Now, when it comes to birth, obviously that's very individual. Some women don't want us right up in their physical space while they're in labour. Others really want a lot of quite intensive one-on-one support, and it depends on how close they are as well to their baby arriving. But a lot of that is really just about reassurance, letting mama know you're still doing okay, your baby's still doing okay. It may have felt like you've been in labour for days, but you are actually still okay and everybody's still doing well. I'm so glad someone asked this question. What do I think of too posh to push planned C-sections? We do hear this kind of language bandied around the place, but it is absolutely not the kind of language we use in midwifery. It is every wahine's right to choose to birth however they want to. And as midwives, we are not in a position to pass judgment or project our own views onto any of the whānau that we're caring for. Judging or shaming anyone for the outcome of their birth is damaging, a lot more damaging than people actually realise. So it's really important, not just for us as midwives, but all of us as a society, to be really careful about the language we use when we're talking about birth. As far as we're concerned, it's their body, their baby, their birth, their choice. What advice would I give to someone who's scared about giving birth? This is another fantastic question. This really varies from person to person. Before doing anything, it requires a little bit of unpacking to get to what specifically might be the most fear or anxiety-inducing part about giving birth. One of the first things I do is also dig a little bit deeper into what kind of media people are consuming. It's very popular these days to watch birth videos, listen to birth podcasts, or read birthing stories. And while all of this can be really beneficial, at times it's not so helpful. So the first thing I do is check in with a mama. What kinds of things are you reading? And after you've read that or listened to something, just take a moment to check in your body and feel what's happening. Are you tensing up, and is it actually intensifying that fear? Or are you feeling awesome, empowered, I'm ready to give birth? If it feels like that, please keep doing it. And if it doesn't, maybe don't listen to that stuff anymore. The other thing is being discerning about who you talk to about their birth stories. It's quite tempting to talk to friends and family, or maybe mums from antenatal groups, about their birth experiences. But the important thing to remember is, like anything, birth is really subjective. Another really helpful thing could be talking to your midwife specifically about your concerns. You may be able to have a conversation or a few conversations that help ease any of that anxiety. And finally, there are many things out there these days. Some of them are free resources that you can find online. Things like, for example, guided meditations, hypnobirthing courses, pregnancy yoga classes, rongoā Māori if that resonates for you. There are many tools out there. Not all of them have to cost the earth, and they could make a difference in keeping you overall calm and ready so that you can prepare for birth in the way that you want to. Most importantly though, don't judge or shame yourself for how you're feeling. You don't have to feel empowered and amazing like the woman down the street that you met last week who was going on a run pregnant. It's your experience. There'll be lots of things, lots of factors that are feeding into that. So be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. Thanks for watching Midwifery Matters. I hope you've got a better understanding of exactly what a midwife does, and I hope it makes your parenting journey just a little bit easier.